Hey y'all, we are going to be getting into some new material today. We do have a quiz that you're going to be taking, um, and like I said, some new material. So, without further ado, adios. Get rid of my ugly mug. Peace. And let's start off by doing these three problems. Go ahead and pause the video and complete these three problems. Now, these are three problems that are the types you are going to see on the quiz today. So, start off with number one. Okay, and with all these, you just start the same way. What can I divide out? Smallest number is 6, and there's nothing 6, 3, 2. I can't divide any of those. So, 1, it's done. So, magic numbers. And the majority of your problems are going to be just like number 1. Reminder, A, B, C. So, A times C on top, negative 42. B on the bottom, 19. We have to figure out what the numbers are. So we start off. 1 times negative 42 is negative 42. When I add those, I get negative 41. That's not it. Next number is 2. Negative 42 divided by 2 is negative 21. Well, that multiplies to be negative 42. If I add, that actually gives me negative 19. And I want positive 19. So the only thing I have to remember that I'm allowed to do is I can switch these. I can make the 2 my negative and the 21 my positive. Okay. And now that will multiply, but now it'll add up to be positive 19. So put your wings out. Okay, remember we start with 6x, so 6x and 6x. And we have our two magic numbers, minus 2 and plus 21. We're looking for what we can divide out of each individual part. So 6 and 2, I can divide those by 2. 6 and 21, I can divide those by 3. And check your tires. 2 times 3 is 6, so that's good. Just make sure you divide it correctly. So this would be 3x minus 1. And this one would be 2x plus 7. And that would be my answer. For number 2, that's difference of squares. Okay, you still do check. What can I divide out? And for this one, it's 1, it's done. And then we can do our difference of squares shortcut. Remember, we just use square roots. Remember, one's plus, one's minus. Square root of 169 n squared is 13n. So they both start with 13n. Square root of 81 is 9. And there's our factored form. Boom, done. Number 3, just factoring out a greatest common factor or a common factor. So numbers first. We have 12, 28, 28, and 8. 8's the smallest number. So can't divide this by 8. I can divide by 4, though. So let's divide out that 4. That's going to give me negative 3, a to the 7th, plus 7, a to the 4th, plus 2, a squared. And I check my numbers again. 3, 7, 2. 2 is the smallest. Okay, and there's nothing else to divide out. So 1, I'm done. Now we're going to look at our letters, our variables. Okay, we have a to the 7th, a to the 4th, a squared. The smallest exponent is 2, so I'm going to divide that out, a squared. Okay, and when I take that out, I'm going to get what's in my parentheses. So it'd be negative 3. I'm dividing out 2 of those a's, so it'd be a to the 5th. 2 of those a's, that'd be positive 7a squared. And I'm taking both of those a's away, so it's just plus 2. Okay. And then don't forget, on the outside, you put these two things multiplied together. 4 times 1a squared is 4a squared. Okay. Now, what you'll need to do, though, is go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and take care of that factor quadratics quiz. Okay, once you're done, you can come back and you will start the new lesson. All right, our new lesson, is solving quadratics by factoring. Now, the whole purpose of factoring is one to help us simplify really complex numbers, and that's something that you'll do further on in math. Um, for us, its main purpose is for us to be able to solve what are called quadratics. Okay, reminder, quadratics are of this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, the big difference between these problems and what you're going to see, I should say, what you have seen, is that they have an equal sign. Okay, so when that equal sign is there, we're not just going to factor, we're going to solve. We're going to figure out what the solutions are. Okay, now those solutions can be called different things. Sometimes they'll just say find the solutions. Sometimes they'll talk about finding the roots. Okay, finding the zeros. Okay, and a lot of those just mean the same thing. We want to solve this quadratic. Our first goal, and you're going to see this, we want to make sure that it says equals 0. Okay, so you might have to do some reorganizing with your problem and make it equal to 0. Okay, in the traditional method, then we're going to factor. Now, factoring completely is essentially what you did here on number 1 and 2. Okay, is what we're primarily going to see. You could see something like 3 every once in a while, but it's primarily problems like 1 and 2. Okay, now once that's factored completely, you are going to use something called the zero property. What it basically says is if you have two unknown things and it's set equal to 0, then you can break these up into two problems. You can say, okay, well then A has to equal 0 or B has to equal 0. Okay, one of those two numbers has to be a 0 in order for that to work. Okay, um, just generally speaking, you're going to eventually get to problems that look like this. Oops, 2x plus 1 times x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, and essentially what you are going to be doing is breaking this up. Each of these factors becomes a problem. So I'd have 2x plus 1 equals 0. I'd have x minus 7 equals 0, and I'd solve that. And I'm going to get my solution. So just basic solving like we learned at the beginning. So 2x equals -1, divide by 2. X would be -1/2. For this one, add 7 to both sides. And I would get x equals 7. Okay. Now, yes, you are going to get two different solutions for the majority of these. Okay. If it's the same number twice, you only have to write it once. Okay. But the majority of these, you are going to get two solutions. Okay. So let's look at a couple problems all the way through so you can see how this works. This is a traditional method. So we have 2k squared plus 5k minus 32 equals -7. Now, our first step is it has to say equals 0. One of the common mistakes is to try to start the problem right now, and this says equals -7. That ain't going to help me. I have to make it say equals 0. So I'm going to move this over to the left-hand side. Okay. Now, when I'm doing this, I do want to make sure if I'm using the traditional method that this a value is positive. If it's not positive, that creates issues with how we factor. So add 7 to both sides. That's going to give me 2k squared plus 5k, and -32 plus 7 is positive 25. Okay, so it says equals 0. Now, let's go ahead and look for something to divide out. Anything I can divide out of 2, 5, and 21? Nope. One, it's done. And I am focused on factoring this problem, just like we did on the warm-up problem. And so magic numbers multiplies to be 50, adds up to be 5. Excuse me, I have a little mistake here. I apologize. -32 plus 7, that is -25. I apologize for that. So multiplies to be -50, adds up to be 5. And my magic numbers are going to be 5, -5, and +10. Okay, so put our wings out. And I would have 2k minus 5 and 2k plus 10. The difference is it says equals 0. Remember, that still says equals 0, so I have to make sure I bring that down. Okay, we can go ahead and do that next step like we normally did with factoring. Divide by 1, divide by 2. I'd get 2k minus 5 times k plus 5 equals 0. Okay, from here, you're going to break these up using the 0 property. So this is one problem that you're going to solve. 2k minus 5 equals 0. And let's go ahead and solve it. So add 5 to both sides. I get 2k equals 5. Divide by 2. And k equals 5 halves, 5 over 2. For the second one, I have k plus 5 equals 0. And minus 5 on both sides. And I get k equals negative 5. And those would be my two solutions. Please do not put them in parentheses. Okay, those are just my two answers. 5 halves and negative 5. There's no order. It is not an ordered pair. Okay. All right, let's look at another one here. Okay, traditional method. Now, here's my equal sign. So right away I see this does not say y equals. So I got a problem there. It's got to say, or it doesn't say equals 0, excuse me. Okay, and right away I see that's an issue. Now, remember, I want a positive a value, so I need this 2 to stay positive. So everything is moving to the left. Okay, so I'm moving this to the left. So I'm going to add 17x to both sides. And I'm going to move this to the left, which means I'm adding 35 to both sides. Now, here's the thing. None of these are like terms. So I need to write these down separately and in order. So x squared, then my x plus 17x, then my constant plus 35. It's got to be in the correct order. Equals, those all cancel out, so equals 0. First goal set out, ready to go. Okay, now, what can I divide out? It's nothing, so 1, it's done. Let's get our magic numbers. Multiplies to be 70, adds up to be 17. Magic numbers here are 7 and 10. Okay, so I go ahead and do this part. Got 2x plus 7 and 2x plus 10 equals 0. Put your wheels down, divide by 1, divide by 2. I get 2x plus 7. Make sure you divide both those by 2. I get x plus 5 equals 0. Then we go ahead and solve them. Okay, so for this first one, 2x plus 7 equals 0. I subtract 7 from both sides, so that's going to give me negative 7 on the right. Divide by 2, and that's going to give me negative 7 over 2. There's one of my solutions. Okay, for the other one, x plus 5 equals 0. I just have to minus 5 from both sides, and I get negative 5. Boom. I have my two solutions. Again, the majority of these are going to have two solutions. Okay. Now, that is the traditional method, and some of you are going to just like doing that method because you feel comfortable. You feel comfortable with the factoring, and it makes sense to you, and that's perfectly fine. But I would be doing you a little bit of disservice if I didn't show you that there is a shortcut. Okay. Now, the first part still stays the same. I still have to make sure it says equal 0. Okay. I still have to get the magic numbers. Okay. That's that X part that we've been doing. Remember, the top is A times C, the bottom is B, that whole deal. We're getting these two numbers. I have to get those two numbers, and then I can go straight to the answer using our shortcut. Okay. The shortcut, it is opposite of the magic number Opposite of the magic number, not magic hashtag, opposite of the magic number, divided by whatever the A value is. And that'll give you the answer right away. You don't have to do all the factoring. Okay, so let me show you exactly how that works, okay, by going back for a second, okay? So let's go back to this problem let's go back to the first one, this problem right here. So if I look at these magic numbers, -5 and +10, I could have went straight from here to my answer, okay? I'd start with this one. I go opposite of -5 is +5, and I divide by my A value. My A value is 2. 5/2. Look at this. Same answer we got right here. For the second one, opposite. So the opposite of 10 is -10 divided by my A value. -10 divided by 2, that's -5. Oh, look, it's the same answer we had here. And that works every single time. Now, you have to be solving, so it's got to have an equal sign in order for this to be available to you, and you do have to get the magic numbers. So let's look at a couple of these by ourselves. Okay, this first one, number 3. There's my equal sign. It does not say equal 0. This is a quadratic because it says k squared. So let's get this over here, minus 15k on both sides. And you have to make sure you put these in the right order. So it goes k squared, then the k, so minus 15k, then the 2, equals 0. Okay. Look for something to divide out. 7, 15, 2. Can't divide those by 2, so 1, it's done. And I'm getting my magic numbers. Multiplies to be 14, adds up to be -15. The magic numbers here happen to be -1 and -14. Okay, negative times a negative. Now, let's go ahead and do our shortcut. Opposite of -1 is +1, divided by my A value. The A value is 7. Oops, I don't want to look there. Apologize. A value is 7. So 1/7. Boom, there's one solution. Opposite, that's going to be +14, divided by the A value, so divided by 7. And that's going to be +2. Look at there. I have my two solutions. Okay. One more here together. We got k squared minus k minus 56 equals 0. Oh, thank goodness. It already says equals 0, so I don't got to move anything around. Just make sure it's in the right order. K squared, k, number. Okay, so that's good. What can I divide out? 1, it's done. Magic numbers. Multiplies to be -56, adds up to be -1. Two magic numbers are 7 and -8. Okay, now my A value is 1, so when I do this, opposite is -7 divided by the A value. So that's going to be -7. Opposite is going to be 8 divided by my A value. So my answers are -7 and +8. Okay. Now, if I had went ahead and done the factoring, you would have factored this. You would have had k plus 7 times k minus 8 equals 0. You would have done your 0 property. And -7 on both sides, you would get -7. So I'd add 8 to both sides. I get k equals 8. And I'm still going to get the same answers. It's a matter of preference. Okay, it's a matter of preference. Either way will work. Okay. What you do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to complete these 4 problems. All right, this one's equal to 0 already. So what can I divide out? 1, it's done. Magic numbers, multiplies to be 18, adds up to be -9. Magic numbers here are going to be -3 and -6. Okay, so I put this together. I'm going to do the traditional way, this first couple. 2k minus 3, 2k minus 6 equals 0. Divide by 1, divide by 2. Get 2k minus 3. Oops. Make sure you divide them both by 2. So this would be k minus 3 equals 0. And I'd break these up. So for this one, the 2k minus 3 equals 0. I'd add 3 to both sides. I'd get 3. Divide by 2, and I would get 3 over 2. Second one, get k minus 3 equals 0. Add 3 to both sides, and I get 3. Okay. For number 2, already says equals 0. I'm going to use the shortcut method on this one. So when it's done, get your magic numbers. Multiplies to be 3, adds to be 4. It means my numbers are 1 and 3. And I do it. Opposite of 1 is negative 1 divided by my a value. So negative 1 is one of the answers. Opposite of 3 is negative 3 divided by an a value. And there's my other answer. Negative 1 and negative 3 as my two solutions. For number 3, you do need to make it say equals 0 first. So I have some things to move. Okay, I got to add 10x to both sides. Whoa, where's 10x to both sides? And I have to add 8 to both sides. Make sure you do put it in the correct order. So I have x squared, x number equals 0. Okay, it's a quadratic. From here, when it's done, so magic numbers multiplies to be 24, adds up to be 10. And my two magic numbers are going to be 4 and 6. Okay, if I'm going to do the traditional way, then I would have 3x plus 4 and 3x plus 6 equals 0. Down my wheels, divide by 1, divide by 3. So I'm going to have 3x plus 4 times, divide these both by 3, so I get x plus 2 equals 0. From here, I'm going to solve. So for this one, 3x plus 4 equals 0, minus 4 on both sides, I get negative 4. Divide by 3, I get negative 4/3. The second one, that x plus 2 equals 0, minus 2 on both sides, and I get negative 2. So those are my two solutions. Last one, make it say equals 0. So add 8 to both sides, and then make sure you put these in the right order. B squared, 17b plus 8 equals 0. Magic numbers. Multiplies to be 16, adds to be 17. So my magic numbers are 1 and 16. And I'm going to do the shortcut. Opposite would be negative 1 divided by the a value. There's one of my answers. Opposite of 16 is negative 16 divided by the a value, which would be negative 8. And those are my two solutions. Okay. Last thing you'll need to do is you are going to have a worksheet that is on Cami. Okay. So go ahead and complete that worksheet. Once you are done, make sure you are checking your answers as you go. On the worksheet, there are 8 problems. Okay. And that's going to be it for today. All right. Y'all have a great day. And adios. Arrivederci. Hasta luego, estudiantes.